8:42, you're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Time for headline makers for you this morning with senior political commentator Nigel Nelson and former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. Good morning to you both. Nigel, I want to start off with something, actually, which is semi-serious in the Mail. They're calling it health and safety, no surprise, but 21 million people suffer injuries prepping for Christmas.
Indeed.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And
what sort of injuries?
Well, it seems to come from, well, the 4% of them is actually dressing as Father Christmas, apparently, but it doesn't explain what that would be.
Dangerous business.
But no, I mean, the serious stuff is 2.7 million people are hurt putting up the tree in various ways that... a similar number climbing on chairs and falling off them to stick up baubles and decorations. And then you get burns from cooking the turkey, cuts from chopping vegetables. So it's sort of, you know, there seems to be an awful lot happening. And, you know, 21 million injuries is an awful lot. If you work at the population, that's about 1 in 3 of us. We're planning our Christmas decorations on Sunday. And I think
they're not up yet.
I'd better actually
I love the fact that
keep away.
We are planning.
Oh, I see.
That's doing some heavy lifting in our house.
But there's no doubt you do start standing on things you shouldn't stand on to try and reach the top of the tree.
Yeah, well, not anymore.
No, I put up the tree, but it's got a bend at the top. Oh. And it really doesn't look good. But I sit there looking at it thinking, I've got to get on top of a chair,
on top of a chair. Tree.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know why it does that at the top. And I've got to go and find a way to...
But to bend it back, to try and bend the tree back.
Yeah, but I've got to climb to do that.
You could be one of these statistics.
I should not be doing that.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
This 21 million figure is not going to include Nigel, considering that I cook. I've done the decoration.
I was going to say, it's the way you said chop vegetables. I thought you've never done that in your life, have you, Nigel?
That's why I was looking, because it's not...
I put peas in pans.
Frozen.
You can cook a frozen.
Oh, come on.
Bad. But no, I mean, people standing on chairs, I mean, we all do it.
Yeah.
You stand on the most inappropriate stool or chair that you've got to try and reach the top of something. You're going to fall down.
Yes, the likelihood is awful.
I did stand on the side of the sofa to put the angel on the tree.
Yeah. There you go.
Wasn't very sensible.
So, angels have probably got a lot to answer for, haven't they? Yeah, they really have.
Yeah. Claire, in the Express this morning, we need to get vaccinated. Well, against what? This flu and pneumonia and all that.
This is your annual reminder that it's winter cold and flu season. It's interesting. It's interesting that the Express are picking up on the amount of people that are admitted to hospital with things like norovirus. Now, there isn't a vaccine that you can have against that.
No.
And I think when you're looking at flu, the majority of people do go and have a flu jab, whether they are sort of slightly younger children, they have them at school. My son has had his recently. Nigel's had a flu jab. I'm yet to go.
I've had flu in that arm and COVID in that arm.
Me too, I guess.
Are you implying Nigel
they've got pneumonia coming up?
Oh, I meant to have that, yes.
The elderly is what you were implying there. That's disgraceful. Vulnerable.
It's in the vulnerable category.
Vulnerable and elderly, Nigel.
Well, that's it. You know you're old when you qualify for all of the vaccinations at winter.
You're like a pincushion by the time you finish the winter.
Yeah, and I have to go and book mine and pay for it, and I haven't quite got round to it yet. But, I mean, it's one of these most annual things that it is that season where everybody's going to be full of cold, the trains are busy, everywhere is packed, you're hot, you're cold, and it's one of those things. And I think that if you could get vaccinated, it is a very good idea to do.
The problem with flu vaccines is people who criticise them is people forget or never realise what it's like to have flu.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
And how many people it kills every year.
Yeah, well,
an awful lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot of people in hospital. That's the rate has gone up 53% for flu in hospitals. You still got 2,400 people in hospital with COVID, so that's not gone away either. And I wonder a bit why if people are not taking up vaccinations because of all the negative publicity around COVID vaccines, which would be a pity. I mean, these things have been used for years.
I think that negative discussion has actually influenced an awful lot of people, not just when it comes to flu, it's children's vaccines as well.
And that's
people
even
just
more
don't
serious.
like the word vaccine anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
And forget what it's like when you used to go to... I used to go to school with kids who had polio and were forever tainted by that. And you used to be off for weeks and months with measles measles and mumps,
Yeah.
and they were horrible, horrible diseases.
Yeah, I had mumps as a kid when I was about 6, and it was horrendous. And I
yes.
remember being in so much pain.
And we've
having it.
become a bit complacent because we forget how absolutely awful those particularly those horrible childhood illnesses
And
were.
once we start to eradicate them with the vaccinations, I mean, these things sort of seemed in the past, and now they're making a resurgence. And I think things like measles coming back is a really, really bad thing. It does some very nasty things to kids, scarring on lungs. It can affect their reproductive system.
Oh, yes.
It can make you deaf, I think, or one of them certainly could.
No, they are really
They were
serious.
disgusting, horrible, medieval-type diseases, weren't they?
absolutely.
And
And
I thought we'd gotten rid of them.
Yeah. Nigel, I've got to be very careful on this one in the Express, because it's about civil servants want to work a 4-day week.
They do.
Which I sort of want to be up in arms about, apart from the fact I do a 4-day week. So I think it's an excellent idea.
This is over at the Department of Environment, and it's the Public and Commercial Services Union who represent them over there. And what they're saying is 21,000 of them, they're petitioning for a 4-day week. And before everyone says, oh, civil servants don't do anything, they're all staying at home and so on, that all the evidence at the moment, especially since the pandemic, is a 4-day week actually works really well. So of 61 firms who tried a pilot scheme, 56 of them have now made it permanent. They found that production has gone up by 35%, you have less stress, less burnout, that staff are less likely to leave. There are an awful lot of benefits for the employer about introducing it.
Is there a problem with the idea then that people who have white-collar jobs, or they can work a 4-day week, anyone in a blue-collar job probably can't?
Which
does seem a bit unfair then, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is an issue. But I mean, there's no reason. It depends what that blue-collar job is. That if you're able to increase production during that period, then yes, you could.
It doesn't have to be the same 4 days either, does it? I mean, some companies could stagger the 4 days so that, in other words, not the whole company doesn't go down on a Friday.
That's right. Yes, yes. I mean, it's just the way a shift system would work. So you can do things like that. But it does mean also, if you want to employ extra people, you know, you're doing so well because your production's going up. You can employ extra people because you've got the capacity, because there's a day in the week where you've got fewer people in. So there's a whole host of benefits. It won't work for everybody, but it does seem to me it's worth trying. And I think there's this kind of feeling that, especially when the civil service come into it, oh, they've all been staying at home and they're not working, and we ought to, you know, just give it a go, really.
But I don't see why they need to make this such a big campaign, because they know full well that if you mention 4-day week and the civil service, that everybody's going to be up in arms and say, well, they're not coming in on a Monday or a Friday or whatever it is. And I get your point about flexible working, and I think it's really for the employer to look at the way the business works and work out if that's possible. I think by saying we are going to trial in the civil service a 4-day week is going to anger pretty much everyone.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it,
there are so many
it?
departments within Whitehall, within the civil service, that currently aren't working. They're not doing the jobs they're supposed to do. HMRC are currently taking down their helpline for self-assessment tax returns because they don't have the capacity to deal with it. And you think, well, why do you not have the capacity to deal with it? You've had one there. This is really important. People are going to get stung if they make
But that's bad management,
mistake.
isn't it?
Absolutely. And this is what I think it leads into, that because you have those problems in parts of the civil service, every department will be tarred by the same brush. Now, DEFRA, I'm sure, do incredibly good work and work incredibly hard. But I just think the optics of a 4-day working week, when people are struggling and there are lots of jobs where you don't have that ability.
But that shouldn't be a reason. But that shouldn't be a reason not to do it. I mean, to at least give it a go. Just because it's the civil service and everyone likes to bash the civil service.
But you've got the unions behind it, and you're making it such a massive.
Well, it's got to come from somewhere. The union is suggesting this is a good way for both the employer and the employee.
But they need to, I think, perhaps go away and just do this quietly. I think by raising the issue.
Quietly? How do you mean quietly?
Well, no,
I feel like I'm in the middle of a
As Claire
domestic.
said, you don't make it a campaign.
Don't make it a campaign.
Well, how do you
Just do it.
get it done? if you don't,
you tell everybody that.
if the employer doesn't want you to actually, like the government doesn't want you to do it, the only way of actually persuading them will be with a campaign.
Oh, you mean somebody's already said no to it, and now they're having to campaign?
No, no one's actually said yes to it, which I think is the way round it is.
But it's something that they could just introduce sort of quietly within the department. You don't need to make the national newspaper aware of it. You don't have banners outside the PCS union saying, you know, this is the most sensible way to do it. Go and trial it and then bring back some evidence and then everybody have a discussion about it. Don't make a big thing of it to start with.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Let's ease off the tension slightly in the studio by lighting. I think we've got some video of this, Nigel. Lighting the largest menorah in the world. Where was this?
This is in New York, and it's 30 feet high. And the whole point, one of the points of doing this, it is with the backdrop of what's been happening in Israel, and also the anti-Semitism that Jewish people are facing all over the place. So in New York, an awful lot of people have been having private ceremonies, and this is the idea.
It is Hanukkah now, of course.
Yes, and this is the idea of this is to say, look, go out in public, make sure that you make a big thing out of this. That's the best way of combating anti-Semitism.
No.
I haven't seen it lit up yet.
No, do we see it?
I don't know where it is in Times Square or something. You can't quite see.
It's not the prettiest menorah I've ever seen.
We're not really seeing it. We're just seeing
people taking
looking,
pictures.
People looking
at something, and we can't see what they're looking at.
No.
Hold on.
There it is.
Yeah.
No, it's not the prettiest ever, is it? It's
not.
much
No.
prettier than that.
It's a shame because I think the sentiment behind it is absolutely right. You should never be ashamed of your religion.
No,
and especially at the moment with Jewish people having an incredibly hard time. I think it's brilliant that everybody comes together and stands and celebrates Hanukkah. And I hope that we see more of this. You shouldn't be embarrassed. You shouldn't have to hide away within your house, having little private ceremonies and hope that nobody notices. You absolutely should be proud of what your religion is, and you'd be able to show that.
Yeah, quite right.
Is it time to say Happy Hanukkah as well as anticipating a Happy Christmas?
There you go. Nigel, Claire, thank you very much indeed. Been good to see you. Let's have a look at the weather.